Hello students, in this video we are going to learn about atoms and its structure. Everything around us is made up of atoms which are universal building blocks. Earlier it was believed that atom was an indivisible particle. Many theories were presented to propose the structure of an atom including J.J. Thomson plum pudding theory, Rutherford's experiment and Bohr's model. Among them, Bohr's theory simplistically explains the atomic structure. Stay connected with me to learn more about atoms in this video. What is an atom? Atoms are small particles having dense nucleus in the center, and it has three subatomic particles, namely protons, electrons and neutrons. This picture clearly shows the structure of an atom. As I already told, in the center it is called as nucleus having proton and neutron in it. So the other name for nucleus is nucleon, and the electrons, it orbits around the nucleus. We call it as an electron orbit or energy levels. And each subatomic particles have a charge. So electron is negatively charged, proton is positively charged, and the neutron, it does not have any charge. How to represent an atom? Before that, we should know about what is a mass number and atomic number. Mass number, it denotes the number of protons and neutrons in an atom, and atomic number, it denotes the number of protons in an atom. So this X, it shows the symbol of an element, and the mass number is written in the top and atomic number in the bottom. For example, you can see here carbon atom, it is represented as C, it denotes the symbol of an element, carbon. 12, it is the mass number of carbon, and 6 is the atomic number. So mass number means it is the total sum of protons and neutrons. So carbon has 6 protons and 6 neutrons, as well as it has 6 electrons. And always in an atom, the number of protons will be equal to the number of electrons. There will be change in only in the number of neutrons. And the number of protons in the nucleus, it determines the element. And the number of electrons in the outermost shell, it determines how the atom will react with the other atoms. In this picture, we can see the arrangement of electrons. As I already told, in the beginning of the video, I told that electrons revolve around the nucleus in an orbit, or we call it as an energy levels. So there are 4 different energy levels. They are K, L, M and N. The first shell is named as the K shell, and the second shell it is named as L, and the third shell it is named as M, and the fourth shell it is named as N. And the electrons are arranged in a manner, that is, K shell can accommodate 2 electrons, and the L shell can accommodate 8 electrons, and the M shell can accommodate 18 electrons, and the N shell can accommodate 32 electrons. On the whole, an atom can accommodate 8 electrons in the outermost shell. Okay. Now, this shows the element and its symbol and the atomic number and how the electrons are distributed in their energy levels. As I already told, the number of protons will be always equal to the number of electrons, and there will be change in only the number of neutrons. And here you can see the distribution of electrons according to the element. This picture shows the electronic configuration of 18 elements. So hydrogen and helium, here the electrons are filled in the first energy level. Hydrogen has atomic number 1, so it is filled in the first level K, and helium has atomic number 2, so it is filled in the first energy level K with 2 electrons. The next row you can see the elements lithium, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, fluorine and neon. Here the electrons are distributed in 2 levels, energy levels. Example, if you take nitrogen, it has atomic number 7. So the first shell it is filled with 2 electrons because K shell can accommodate only 2 electrons. So the remaining electrons, it moves to the next level. Okay, energy level. That is the L energy level that having how many electrons are there? Yes, 5 electrons on the next level. In that row, you can see neon. It has atomic number 10. So the first level, it has 2 electrons, and the outermost shell, it has 8 electrons. So it is a completely filled atom, because an atom is completely filled with 8 electrons in the outermost shell. Okay. The next row, you can see the elements sodium, phosphorus, sulfur, chlorine, and argon. Here, if you take the phosphorus element, it has atomic number 15. So, in the first shell, it has 2 electrons, and the next shell, it has 8 electrons, and the remaining 5 electrons will be in the third energy level. Okay. And in that row, you can see argon. The atomic number is 18. So the first shell, it will accommodate only 2 electrons. And the remaining, it goes to the second energy level, that is L shell, and it accommodates 8 electrons. And the remaining 8, it goes to the next energy level, and it accommodates how many electrons? 8 electrons. So argon is a completely filled atom with electrons. So you should keep in mind that the outermost shell of an atom should have 8 electrons. Okay. Now, helium, neon, argon and krypton, they are called as octet electrons because the outermost shell is filled with the correct number of electrons. In helium, the atomic number is 2. So, it can accommodate in the first energy level K, that is fulfilled, because K can accommodate only 2 electrons. So, it is fulfilled. Neon, the atomic number is 10. So the first level, it has 2 electrons, and the next energy level, it has 8. So it is completely filled. Likewise, argon and krypton also, it is completely filled with 8 electrons in the outermost shell. Okay. So these elements are called as noble gases because these atoms have 8 electrons in the outermost shell. Remaining elements we can see in this slide. So what happens to them? So an atom which has a tendency to lose electrons and gain electrons, they are categorized into cation and anion. Okay. So anion means the tendency of an atom to gain electrons, and cation means the tendency of an atom to lose electrons. Because atoms tend to react with another atom to fulfill their outermost shell with electrons. So the physical and chemical properties of an atom is dependent upon how they react with the other atoms. That means how they fulfill their outermost shell with the electrons by sharing electrons with the other atoms. Now, in hydrogen, we can say the valency of hydrogen is 1 because it has only 1 electron in the outermost shell. So, it has a tendency to share electrons with the other atom. We have already learned that in our lower classes, the two elements combine together to form a compound. So the principle here is the atom which has a tendency to lose or gain electrons. It combines with other atoms to form a compound. Here we can see the sharing of electrons between the elements. So the example here is hydrogen and oxygen. So hydrogen, it has 1 electron in the outermost shell, and oxygen has 6 electrons in the outermost shell. So it requires 2 electrons to be a fulfilled atom. So it gains the 2 electrons from hydrogen atom. So 2 molecules of hydrogen, it combines with oxygen to form a compound called water. Okay. And the other example is carbon dioxide. Carbon has 4 electrons in the outermost shell, and oxygen has 2 electrons. Oxygen needs 2 electrons in the outermost shell. It has 6 electrons. So the 2 electrons it gains from the carbon atom. So one molecule of carbon reacts with 2 molecules of oxygen to form carbon dioxide. Do you understood? Next, about sodium and chlorine. So already we know how to draw the electronic configuration of sodium. So the valency of sodium is 1, that is it has only 1 electron in the outermost shell. And the valency of chlorine is also 1 because it has 7 electrons in the outermost shell, and it requires 1 electron to become a completely filled one. So it gains electrons from the other atom. So the sodium atom, it is converted into sodium ion by losing an electron because the sodium atom has one electron in the outermost shell. So it has a tendency to lose electrons. So when it loses that electron, it becomes an ion. Okay, cation, Na plus. And here chlorine atom will be converted into chloride ion by gaining an electron because it has 7 electrons in the outermost shell, and when it gains 1 electron from the other atom, it becomes chloride ion. Now you can see the sharing of electrons between sodium and chlorine. Since sodium has 1 electron in the outermost shell, it gives or it shares that electron with chlorine because chlorine requires 1 electron to form a complete atom. So the two elements sodium and chlorine, they combine together to form a compound called sodium chloride. So if they ask you to draw the electronic configuration of Na plus ion, sodium ion means you have to draw with two shells. Okay, you have to leave the third shell because it is losing the electron. Once it loses the electrons only, it becomes ions Na plus. If they ask you to draw the electronic configuration of chloride ion, the name ion is given, you have to draw the completely filled electronic configuration of chloride ion. That means 8 electrons in the outermost shell. If they ask you to draw the chlorine atom means the outermost shell should have only 7 electrons. Okay. Chloride ion means the outermost shell should have 8 electrons, and the symbol you have to give the negative sign because it is gaining electrons. Other example we can see magnesium, it has atomic number 12. That means it has 2 electrons in the outermost shell. So it has a tendency to share the 2 electrons with the other atoms. Here we can see the sharing of 2 electrons of magnesium with chlorine because chlorine requires 1 electron to form a completely filled one. So the 2 electrons from magnesium, it is shared with the 2 chlorine atoms. So we get a compound MgCl2. Magnesium chloride, it is a compound. Mg, it is represented as 2 plus because it is giving or losing 2 electrons, or it's sharing 2 electrons with the chloride ion. So if they ask you to draw the electronic configuration of Mg2 plus, that means magnesium ion means you have to draw like this, which is represented in the center, having the outermost shell 8 electrons, leaving the third shell. Okay. This is the other example of sharing of magnesium electrons with the fluorine. So fluorine also requires 1 electron to become a fulfilled atom. So it gains the electrons from magnesium. So two molecules of fluorine, it combines with magnesium to form a compound. Do you understood about this? Thank you. Thank you for watching and happy learning.